Hi, I'm Malika Bilal in for Femi, okay? And you're in the stream. Today, what does taking a bucket of ice water over the head have to do with a rare and often fatal disease? We look at the conversations around the viral ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Filling in as digital producer is Dan Ming. He's looking out for all of your live feedback, and I know that there's going to be a lot of it.
There's a lot, and we have a lot of people who aren't that thrilled with the Ice Bucket Challenge. If you take a look at my computer here, Lael tweets, "Why can't we donate to charity without all our Facebook friends having to know about it?" So we want to get your thoughts. What do you think? Is this the problem or is this the point? Tweet me with the hashtag AJStream.
I'm looking forward to that. Well, joining us on set is Julie Dixon, and Julie is the Deputy Director of the Center for Social Impact Communication at Georgetown University. Julie, welcome to the stream.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Now, before we get started, here are 3 hashtags inspired by Ice Bucket Challenge. Weeks, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge has become a worldwide internet sensation. Videos of people pouring buckets of ice water over their heads have flooded social media timelines. But what does that have to do with ALS, a rare and often fatal disease that makes people lose control of their muscle movements until they're paralyzed? It's a social media campaign to raise awareness and funding for research on ALS, which currently has no cure. So far, it's a huge success, with the ALS Association reporting close to $88 million in donations since the end of July. That's compared to just $2.5 million during the same period last year. Now, the rules are fairly simple. Donate to ALS or record yourself dumping a bucket of ice water over your head and challenge your friends to donate money or do the same. And while some people are applauding this as a philanthropy meets social media success story, not everyone is feeling the hype. Critics say it's a classic example of slacktivism, where people join a trend without understanding or actually doing anything to help. Well, to explore this debate, we're also joined by William McCaskill, a moral philosopher and co-founder of Giving What We Can, a charity that helps move funds to other charities in the UK. Jacqueline Herrera is co-founder of Kite Child. That's an NGO working to improve the standards of care for children living in orphanages. And Gerard Hayden is a chef and current ALS patient. Welcome all of you to this stream. Now, I want to give our viewers and our guests a sense of just how big this has gotten. So I'm going to start with something on my laptop. Now, this is a time lapse of 3 hashtags created by the stream team. These hashtags are ones related to the ALS challenge. You can see in the very beginning, it started with just a few in the US, and it literally spread like wildfire. That started from August 8th just up until yesterday. So Julie, when you see that, you see how it spread quite literally across the world. Why is it that it got so big?
Well, I think it takes advantage of a couple things. You know, what we've noticed in our research is that the reason that people get involved with charities or causes or issues that they care about is because it has a personal connection. So naturally, anything that taps into that person-to-person, that peer-to-peer connection will really help it to spread like wildfire, as we saw here. And social media, the tools make it so easy nowadays for that to happen. It's the technology that enables that peer-to-peer process to spread much more quickly than perhaps it was possible in the past.
Is some of it narcissism, though? Is the fact that not only is it peer-to-peer, but it's me doing something and then me challenging you directly to do something, and then we're both seen doing that thing that's then spread across the world.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is, you know, when you think about the traditional motivations for people to not only give, but to talk about their giving with their friends and family and their networks, yes, there's narcissism. There's also motivations about, you know, wanting to appear philanthropic, wanting to appear worldly or knowledgeable about issues. But there's also this element that we're starting to see, perhaps because of social media, that people actually want to have an influence. So they know that, yes, I could donate and I could tell nobody about it, But if I donate and I actually tell my friends and family, then I can influence them to care about an issue that I care about myself, and then my impact has the potential, as we've seen here, to grow exponentially.
Mm-hmm. We're getting some conversation online about that idea of attention seeking, but also showing others what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Anita tweets in or puts on Facebook her thoughts about the Ice Bucket Challenge. She says, "It's stupid, just contribute without the ridiculous need for attention." But then Sammy on Twitter disagrees. He says, "Narcissism, who cares? That's channeling a natural characteristic in a positive direction." So Will, I want to get your thoughts on this. Is this narcissism, this attention seeking, why the campaign has succeeded? And if so, is that a bad thing? Will, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm perfectly happy using narcissism for good ends. If people want to feel good while doing good, that's a bonus rather than a cost. The issue is just whether it takes away money from other causes. So ALS has received a huge amount of funding as a result of this. But psychologists have found that frequently, if people do very public acts of altruism for a small amount of good, say a $40 donation that's the average for an ALS donation as a result of the Ice Bucket Challenge among those who donate, then they compensate by doing less good things in other causes. They call this moral licensing. I call it kind of funding cannibalism. And it's a real phenomenon, and when we design a campaign, we really want to make sure that we're mitigating that as much as possible. But from the research that's been done, it looks like the Ice Bucket Challenge is almost designed or optimized for making people feel as good as possible for a fairly small donation. And that's exactly the worst conditions in terms of taking away money and attention from other causes, making people perhaps even doing less good overall.
Well, Gerard, I want to bring you in here. Do you think that the people sharing this on Facebook and Twitter have actually connected to the cause?
Well, I'd say this. I believe that, first of all, the challenge was started for taking the ice and pouring it over your head, but also donating $50. If you did not do that, you would donate $100. So those are offered up as amounts. As far as taking away from other causes, I would tell you that the NHI in the United States, National Institute of Health, has budgeted $1.9 billion for ALS research. So, William, let me ask you this. Do you think $88 million may be a good cause for something that maybe you didn't know as much about ALS as you thought you did a year ago?
Will?
So if the donations were moving the money from kind of less effective causes to more neglected, more needed charities or organizations, then yeah, I'd be very in favor of that, even if it was just moving money around. But ALS, sadly, there are very many problems in the world, and for some you can do a lot more good by channeling the money in that direction than you can for others. So I often use the example of malaria, which is even more neglected because it mainly affects people in very poor countries. And with the same amount of money, economists have found you can do 100 times as much to benefit people. So there's just the issue is just with many very important problems in the world. So.
All right, Will. So we have go ahead, Jerry. You can respond.
Well, then maybe the idea is not to be mad at the people donating or be upset with the challenge itself. Maybe the malaria needs more observation from governments. Maybe you could start a challenge for malaria. I wouldn't hate on the people that are trying to follow in the footsteps of a person who started this to cure a fatal disease. It's not often fatal. It's absolutely fatal.
So Will, I want to share a video comment that we got from our community about your point of this takes money away from other causes. So take a listen. This is someone who participated.
You know, pitting causes against one another and saying that one disease is worse than the other, or that one place deserves your donation more than anything else, is just really counterproductive. And the fact is, the only real hard facts are that lots of young people my age, got together, did something kind of silly, didn't really emotionally invest themselves, but they did spend money, 10, 20, 30, up to $100 at a time, donated the money, and money that probably otherwise would have been spent on burritos and beer, and they spent it on something cool, and it's going to make a difference. And I think that's really great.
So Will, what do you have to say to that? He says that it would have been spent on burritos and beer otherwise. It's not the same as money that would have gone to other causes. What do you have to say?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I should say is I'm definitely not hating on people who are taking the challenge. I think it's great that people are showing initiative in donating to good causes, but I think it's a real missed opportunity. And I think people obviously are going to say, look, this is a donation that I have made that wouldn't have made otherwise. It would be very surprising to get lots of people saying, oh yeah, I gave this and I'm going to compensate by donating less another time. And so it's best to just look at the actual evidence, the kind of research that's been done by academics in this area. And they find that, yeah, it's a real risk that and does happen, that people do something good and then they compensate, often just subconsciously, often just in terms of down the line, in terms of thinking about the charitable budget, by donating less to other causes. And when you've got a situation where the act of doing good is very public, as it is in the Ice Bucket Challenge, that effect is kind of aggravated. The reason is you've kind of demonstrated that you're a good person, and you don't feel like you need to do so on other occasions. Like, for example, when someone approaches you in the street asking you to donate. So yeah, I think that
I actually want to bring Will, I want to bring Jacqueline in here on that point, and to talk about your point on doing something good means you may not do something good somewhere else, because the fact of the matter is this has raised lots of money. 88 million was as of yesterday's mark. I think the mark is a little bit higher today, and so I want to play something on my laptop here. This is just one of the videos that's been shared. This is Hollywood actor Charlie Sheen, and this is on TMZ. This got more than 17 million views. Have a look at this.
Oh wait, that's not ice. That's $10,000 in cash, which I am donating to the ALS Foundation, because let's face it, ice is going to melt, but this money is going to actually help people. So
Jacqueline, you see the money coming out of the bucket right there. Is this the future of fundraising? Because clearly it works.
Yeah, but you know what? It works for now. My main concern is that what's going to be the hot trend next year? Who's going to be the hot NGO, the hot charity? And are the people that supported ALS through the Ice Bucket Challenge, are they going to be there next year giving the same amount of support? Or did they just, hop on this trend? So in the long run, I don't think it's necessarily the best I hope it's not the future of fundraising, because it's not very stable for any particular NGO.
Dan?
I'm curious. I have a question.
Go ahead, Jerry, please.
Yeah, I have a question for everyone. Do we all feel the same about the football players wearing pink for cancer?
That's a good question. Of course, you're talking about wearing pink and the breast cancer awareness ribbon. Right. Julie, what are your thoughts?
Do we think that football players will get breast cancer, or is this more of a way to use the media to get more awareness out about the disease?
Yeah.
Why is this Ice Bucket Challenge worse than that?
I think that's a great question, and I think also,
let's let Julie answer first, and then Will, you can chime in after that. Go ahead.
Sure. I think it's a fantastic question, and in many ways, the Ice Bucket Challenge has had more concrete proof of impact in a short period of time than the how many years has the NFL been having their players wear pink in a particular month. Because awareness is very, very difficult to measure, and so a lot of the campaigns that have been categorized as slacktivism in the past, it's been really, really difficult to measure at the end of the day what is the sum total of this campaign. But here we know, as of this morning, it's $94 million.
Right.
So Will, before you respond, I just want to read one tweet from the community. AJ tweets in, "It's like free market charity where the best marketed charities get the money, not necessarily the most needy." Will, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So what we want is to be incentivizing and rewarding the charities that do the most good, not the ones that have the best marketing campaigns. Because charities are very different from for-profit companies. If I buy a product that's not that great because of great marketing, then I kind of know it. I have the product in my hand and I see that, damn it, I made a bad decision. In the contrast with charity, when you give, you just never find out what happened to that money. And that means you need to be a lot more careful with your donation decisions. You need to do proactive research in order to work out how good the charities are, like how effective they are, including the lives of the people they're helping.
Well, Will, I hear your point, and I know that Julie wants to jump in, but I actually want to play something that's quite powerful. This is someone who is suffering from ALS himself, and he explained why he thinks the challenge is a good thing. So I'd like all of our guests to have a look at this challenge.
People are getting frustrated about saying the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge right now, and that's fine. That's fine. That means our, our awareness is working. It wouldn't be successful if we weren't irritating a few people, right? I promise your news feed will go back to cat videos and let it go covers. But right now, the ALS community has the main spotlight, and for once in my entire life, I've seen it in the forefront. Usually when I say to someone, I have ALS, my mom has ALS, my grandmother has ALS, they have two responses. They either totally confused, have no idea what ALS is, they usually attribute it to Lou Gehrig's disease, or they know completely how terrifying it is, and the conversation is usually pretty short.
So Jerry, he was recently diagnosed with ALS. His mother, other family members also have it. So how would you like to see this money put to use? What would good use look like to you?
Well, I already know how it's being put to use. The ALS Association of America is a not-profit organization that uses 88% of the money that's raised to go into ALS research, patient care, which is exactly what's happening in that video with his mother. And this is the greatest thing to happen to ALS in 75 years since Lou Gehrig got on Yankee Stadium. Now, this money, I understand that other charities are out there, but I really do have to go back to, there's no reason we have to pit one charity against the other. I believe, and I know the proof is not out yet, that you don't know whether or not people will donate to other causes. A poll has not been taken by everybody that's made a donation to this.
Julie, I saw you nodding your head.
Yeah, I mean, and this relates back to the point of, pitting the charities against one another, and this idea that the best marketer wins, right? The free market comment that the video commenter made. And it's this idea that it's a bunch of, marketing strategists sitting around a table who came up with the Ice Bucket Challenge, which I think is one of the common misconceptions, when in fact it was a grassroots effort. It was, it started by individuals, and it really grew organically from there. Exactly, and that's why it's been so authentic
so
and so
it wouldn't
powerful.
have worked if it was a bunch of execs sitting around a table?
And I think that's what's so frustrating, I think, for if you're, a nonprofit staff member or a board member who are thinking now, how do I replicate this at my organization? What are my takeaways? And it's, really, it came from within their community of supporters and grew from there.
Totally agree.
All right, so I have a tweet that I want to pose to Jacqueline. Tori tweets in, if the goal is more research and finding a cure, then money is more important than awareness. Now, Jacqueline, I know you've been kind of critical about the lack of engagement that people have when they just do something like the Ice Bucket Challenge. Do you think that they really need a certain level of awareness, or is money just the main thing that needs to go to something like this?
I definitely feel like awareness is just as important as money, because ALS is a condition that's going to take, hundreds of millions of dollars possibly to find a cure. So it has to be more than it's going to have this golden moment in the spotlight. I really feel like people should really connect with what ALS is, and just hopping on a bandwagon and donating isn't going to do any favors for the organization in the long run.
But I would argue that the 2 million new supporters...
I disagree with that.
I hear your disagreement. Julie talked first, so I'm going to let Julie go first, and then you will. Go ahead.
I'm in the studio, right? So I
go for it.
I mean, I would say that that's an opportunity for the ALS Association and any other organization who has benefited from this. They have 2 million new donors who have gone to their website, who've put their email addresses in, who are now a captive audience who can be nurtured and engaged with and educated further. So it's an opportunity. I mean, and even if a small percentage of that huge number ends up becoming lifelong donors to the organization, you're still, at a huge number more than you had originally. So,
Will?
Yeah, I mean, so I was disagreeing with Jacqueline that the great benefit of the challenge is the money that's gone to the ALS Association. It's much more difficult to see how awareness kind of translates into good outcomes. Whereas donations, they will be doing great things, especially on the research that they're funding. My worry is like partly almost the other alternative, which is actually how little money it is. It seems like a great amount, which is $90 million. But when you realize that's spread out over hundreds of millions of people, maybe billions of people now, who've been exposed to this, is actually per person just a very small amount of money that's been donated. And relative to kind of the size of the problems in the world, as ALS Association is, do we think we could be doing better with the most viral marketing campaign in years?
All right, thank you. And I have a question that I'd like to pose to Jerry. So Jerry, we found this tweet in researching this show. Brent tweets, "Is the Ice Bucket Challenge a band-aid on the problem of declining public money for research? Philanthropy cannot replace government." What do you think about that? Does this take the pressure off of government to provide funding?
No, I think it puts more pressure on government. I believe that this movement will put a lot more focus on the disease that up until 2010, there was no national registry in America. We don't even know how many people suffer from ALS. And this money will bring light to that, it'll bring light to the patients, it'll bring light to research. Like I told you before, the National Institute of Health has put $1.9 million for research. That is a shame, and I believe Peter Franz, the man that started this, a boy 29 years old with ALS, has done our community the biggest favor it's ever done.
Jacqueline, when you hear that, and I know that you also wrote a piece in which you mentioned that you have friends who are also suffering from ALS, what do you say?
I want, in my ideal world, I want people to connect with what they're doing, with what they're engaging with in philanthropy. And I strongly feel that with this Ice Bucket Challenge, it's really just a trend that a lot of people are doing without, stopping to think about or learning more about the causes. That way, in the future, next year and the following years, they can still be supporters, because I've seen it firsthand. And I don't want people to do these little acts of slacktivism because it's cool and everyone else is doing it. I want people to actually care about what is going on.
Well, little acts of slacktivism. I have to pick up on that, Julie, because I know that this is what you research, and so you're saying that's the point. This isn't just a little act of slacktivism.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and what's really interesting is that, if you think about the typical stereotype of the slacktivist, right? It's somebody who gives a like on Facebook or, maybe posts a comment or something like that, but there's no, actual real actions behind that. Things like donating or volunteering or attending an event or a fundraiser, things like that. And I think that's why this campaign has really broken the mold, because in the past, things like the Coney 2012 campaign from a couple years ago.
We did a show on that.
Yeah.
And how much people did not like that campaign.
Yeah, because, and part of that was, what do you do? There's no way for the average kind of individual to get involved with addressing a problem like that. You can't, you can't send money, you can't go over there. But with this, there was a concrete call to action. It was donate and do the bucket challenge, or just donate. And we've seen in the numbers how many people have actually followed through on the actions. So I think this is a great example where, all of that activity can be measured and can be tracked.
Right, and I hear that there is someone who wants to retort. We have to do that, of course, in the post show. I will end with a tweet from community.
Yes, we have a closing tweet from the Wara. He tweets, "I hope this revitalizes NGOs to think creatively and to see multiple avenues for raising awareness and funds in the social media era." So we're in a new era. That's it.
A new era. Well, we're going to take that to the post show. That's a good place to put this discussion on hold. We'll see you at stream.aljazeera.com. I have just enough time to tell you about our next show, prevented from donating blood and organs that could save someone's life, all because of your sexuality. We'll find out why on Thursday. Until then, we'll see you online. This is This Dream's online post show. Welcome back. We've been talking about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge and whether this popular trend is a philanthropy meets social media success story or another example of slacktivism. And so on that topic of slacktivism, Dan, I know that you have something you want to pull up.
I have a report actually from Julie's project at Georgetown University. So you did a study on slacktivists, and you found that slacktivists were 2 times as likely to volunteer their time and take part in an event. Now these are just people who click on things online, and they're also 5 times as likely to recruit others to sign petitions for a cause or social issue. So is this showing that people aren't slacking off as much as they're said to be? What do you think?
That's exactly what it is. And I think the popular misconception is that people replace activities with social media, and what we saw in that study was they're actually supplementing them, which the figure about asking other people to sign petitions, I think really gets at the heart of what these so-called slacktivists are good at, and that's influencing others.
Can I ask Julia on this topic, was this just correlation? So of the people who click on social media, they're more likely to volunteer? Because if that's just correlation, that's exactly what you'd expect, even if it was decreasing the amount they're likely to donate at all. And it conflicts with other evidence where they actually did kind of randomized controlled trials showing that people who kind of had to sign a petition were more likely to give to that cause, but they were less likely to give to other causes, and the sum total in which they gave was less in total.
Well, to answer kind of the second part of your question, we actually did a follow-up study a couple of years ago and found that these people who are really active online and posting and using a variety of different means to support organizations, whether it's online or offline or kind of anything in between, we called them our maximizers, and they were actually supporting on average 12 different causes or organizations, which was more than double the other types of individuals that we kind of identified throughout segmenting the research, and at deeper levels of involvement and commitment and for longer periods of time, which I was frankly really, really surprised about, because you picture they're just going to kind of flip from cause to cause, and but they actually were more deeply involved and for longer periods of time.
And real engagement.
Yeah.
Well, I want to shift gears here just a little bit. I want to shift gears just a little bit because I love that topic, but this is there's so much to talk about with this and so little time. So I want to show something on my laptop actually, and this is the spin-offs of this challenge, and there's been several. This is the Rice Bucket Challenge. This is India's take on the Ice Bucket Challenge, and this is donating rice. You don't have to throw it over your head. You just donate it. There's the Rubble Bucket Challenge, and that's raising awareness about Gaza and the destroyed infrastructure there, and that was started by a university student and some others in Gaza. There's Alberta's oil sands. Leonardo DiCaprio, the Hollywood star, nominating Stephen Harper to do an Ice Bucket Challenge for tar sands. And this last one, Jacqueline, this is Matt Damon's. It was hard to watch, so I'm not going to play it, but he used toilet water for the Ice Bucket Challenge, and that's because he wanted to raise awareness about water issues. You're in California, there's a drought in California, and one of the big criticisms is that this is a big waste of water. Jacqueline?
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge waste of water. And not only that, but there's, a clean water crisis in a lot of parts of the world. So for this campaign to actually be raising money for one organization, kind of going off of Will's viewpoint, it's what about the organizations that need clean water, that work to provide clean water for other communities? So why are people wasting water to raise money for something and then, so to speak, taking away from other people that could use that clean water? And I like that these other new variations of the challenge, they're just kind of piggybacking on this. So, what does that say about organizations that don't actually have a viral hook or a viral, action? Are they not going to receive the same amount of attention as the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge?
All right, yeah, so on that, so just 1 second, Jerry, we have a video comment directly responding to that from someone who runs a water conservation organization. So take a listen to this, Jacqueline.
While this has been happening, it's been really, really wonderful to see people like Matt Damon and so many other non-celebrities find ways to use recycled water, pool water, lake water, toilet water, whatever it is. And in addition to that, our organization, Search for Water, has gotten so many shout outs on Ice Bucket Challenge videos, and we've received several donations from people all across the country through no solicitation from our organization. So just another wonderful aspect of what this challenge has actually done.
So Jacqueline, what do you have to say to that? Can't other causes benefit as well just from the piggyback effect?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing with this rice example and the clean water example. But again, that's just another a reinforcement that if something's not viral and people aren't showing their friends and getting all these likes, in this new age, it might not work for NGOs or organizations and their marketing efforts.
And we're showing there the Bullet Bucket Challenge. That was from Orlando Jones, also Hollywood actor, about stopping the shooting in the U.S. Now, I know several people wanted to respond to what you were saying, Jacqueline. So Will and Jerry. Jerry, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I just feel like this idea of looking at this moment for this one disease, which has been neglected for a very, very long time by the government, by people in general, that there is nothing wrong with social media going out, and you know what, any cause that's out there can take a moment from this time that's created and get the word out for every cause that's out there. This is only going to grow. This is not a phase. This is not a fad. This is going to influence donations all over the world. Anybody thinks that's wrong, I disagree.
But Jerry, I am interested. I mean, you say it's not a phase, it's not a fad. Does that mean that you have hope that this is something that's not going to die out, that the donations will keep rolling in?
Absolutely. We've only scratched the surface.
Will?
Yeah, so the people who use the Ice Bucket Challenge to kind of pivot and talk about other causes, that was, I think, one of the best parts of the challenge. And I think in terms of the effect of taking, potentially making people feel good about fairly small kind of commitments, there's an alternative effect called commitment effects. And if you give people an opportunity to kind of stand up, and sure, they can dump water over their heads, that's kind of all in good fun. But if they then take a moment and say, well, this is something that I've actually investigated and thought a lot about, and like Matt Damon saying, actually, like a lot of people don't know that 2 billion people in the world don't have access to clean water, and those people are living on less than $1 a day. You can double their income at very little cost to yourselves. I think that would potentially make it a lot more powerful, potentially reduce the amount by which people felt good about themselves and compensated by not doing as much good in other dimensions.
Julie, you agree?
I still struggle with the idea that somebody giving $10 to the ALS Association right now is going to cause them to either do something bad or feel free to do something bad or to not give in the future. And I think the amount is somewhat relative too. I mean, $10 donation could be a lot to somebody or a little to somebody else. And so, when I like to think, because giving is so personal and because you have a number of different reasons why you might choose to give to one organization versus another, at the year end, when a lot of nonprofits have sort of their big year-end fundraising push, I find it hard to believe that somebody who typically gives, a $25 donation in honor of a loved one who had cancer, for example, is going to not give that donation this year because they're thinking back to, giving $10 to the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, because it speaks to a different motivation. I think this particular campaign gets at fun and narcissism, as we talked about, and it's very different reasons than you perhaps give in other times.
Right. We have a tweet from the community sort of agreeing with you. Spectra writes in, so many important issues need attention. Creating a hierarchy of importance is polarizing and unhelpful.
You also had an ending video comment I know you wanted to play for Jerry. And Jerry, we would like to give you the last word on this, of course, because this conversation is about you. So have a listen to this.
So Jerry, this is from Valerie Estes, and she works at Project ALS, one of the huge beneficiaries of this campaign. Take a listen.
The Ice Bucket Challenge has been incredible, an incredible boon not only for fundraising but for awareness for ALS, which is a very tough disease. ALS is closely related to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. What most people don't know, most people who are taking the challenge, is that 1 in 25 American adults will be diagnosed with one of these brain diseases by the year 2025 unless we do something.
So Jerry, you're experiencing this firsthand. What do you think needs to be done?
I believe that what's happening now with this challenge, Boundary SCs and Project ALS are one of the groups that are doing phenomenal forefront work and research. And the fact that these are all brain diseases, this is not a muscle disease. It's very directly related, linked to dementia, Alzheimer's. This is going to be something, whether it's ALS or Parkinson's or one of those diseases, she's absolutely right. It's going to affect us all. There is no reason. I feel like the backlash against it is the same backlash that we've been receiving from pharmaceutical companies our entire lives with this disease. There are just not enough of us, so who cares?
I'm going to leave it there. That was Jerry Hayden. We also had Julie Dixon and heard from William McCaskill and Jacqueline Herrera. Now I have just enough time to tell you about our next show, Prevented from Donating Blood and Organs That Could Save Someone's Life, all because of your sexuality. We'll find out why on Thursday. And until then, we'll see you online.